Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Chris Callahan, president of University of the Pacific, and I'm here in Anderson Hall on the beautiful campus of University of the Pacific. And we are here tonight to meet and get to know our new athletic leader. And more importantly, with Adam coming on board to really start a new chapter for Pacific Athletics. And I can tell you, I just couldn't be more excited. Adam, thank you for joining us. I'm going to take a moment and tell our audience a little bit about our search for you. And this was a very intentional search. We were looking for a certain kind of leader for this to take us into this new era for Pacific Athletics. And first and foremost, somebody with super high energy. High energy, somebody who was forward-looking and optimistic, somebody who was innovative and entrepreneurial, and a big thinker. Those were the key attributes we were looking for, and somebody who had the ability to use both sides of their brain, right? Somebody who was really steeped in relationship-based leadership, while at the same time was a master of data and data-driven decision-making. And then ideally, on top of all of that, I was hopeful that we would find somebody, an up-and-coming number two at a place that we wanted to be like. And I can tell you, Adam is central casting for all of those things at the highest level. I'm just looking forward to him starting on Monday, and for all of you to start to meet him and work with him. And I know you'll be excited as I am. So let me take a minute to tell you a little bit about Adam's background before we open it up to your questions. We've collected a lot of your questions, and we're gonna field as many of those as we can over the next 45 minutes. So Adam is in University of Dayton currently for a few more days. He is physically there today. He's been at Dayton for 11 years. For those of you who don't know, University of Dayton as a university quite similar to Pacific in terms of size, scale, scope, mission, and academic quality. The athletic programs are very similar. Both are in high mid-majors with 17 Division I sports. I will say Dayton has had fantastic success on every dimension in athletics, one of the many reasons why we're so excited to have Adam. So the last 11 years at Dayton, for about half of that time as the Senior Associate Athletic Director. Started off in ticket sales and very quickly rose through the ranks. Is a true master of not just ticket sales, but revenue generating partnerships, apparel, contracts, and on the operational side, has been very involved in recruiting and developing head coaches for a series of different sports. He's been involved in major fundraising for Dayton, had the opportunity to talk for a long time with the president of Dayton, who worked very closely with Adam over the years, and he's an absolutely huge fan. And in addition to the athletic successes in the Flyers program, they have great academic successes. So during Adam's time there, Dayton is one of only 15 schools in the country that had every year for the last 15 years, 3 of their teams at the highest level academically, the NCAA, and the rest are mostly the Ivy League and West Coast Ivy League schools. So impressive on all of those levels. Before he came to Dayton, Adam worked in the athletic department of Ball State University for 5 years. And importantly, he was an intercollegiate athlete himself as a golfer at Creighton University. I feel very, very fortunate that Adam is going to be joining us as our new athletic director. So, Adam, welcome to Pacific.
Thank you so much. I am very excited to be with you all tonight. I have been looking forward to this and to engaging with you all. And the only down note is it's not in person, but again, as soon as Monday arises, bright and early Monday morning Pacific time, not Eastern time where I'm at right now, I will get a chance to engage with you all one-on-one. I can't wait for it.
Terrific. Adam, let's start off with a simple question, but I think an important one. Why Pacific? You are at a point in your career where you had a lot of opportunities, a lot of choices. What attracted you to University of the Pacific?
The penultimate question, and the one that I got quite a bit, especially being somebody that, a Midwest guy who spent time in Indiana, Ohio, Nebraska, been to California a lot, visited a lot. I believe it was with KCRA in a recent interview. I made a comment that Pacific has been a university that's been on my radar for a long time. One thing you'll learn about me is I am honest to a fault. I'm an open book. And that was not lip service. I truly meant that comment. About 6 years ago, I was going through some leadership professional development training at UD and through the NCAA, and was challenged in terms of what do you want to do with your career? I want to be an athletic director. As a student athlete, I feel like I've gotten to the point, or I'm getting to the point, was probably a little too green at that point, to know that the best way I can influence student athletes and give them the kind of experience that I had is to be an athletic director. All right, drill down on that. What do you mean by that? Where are places that you think you would fit and go? And you start putting different criteria together of what you are interested in and what would fit with you. And I look at my time at Dayton, which has been very special to me, my time at Creighton, so private basketball centric leagues, conferences, faith-based institutions, and communities that are not too large but not too small. My family is, which I'm sure I'll talk about many times, not terribly interested in large cities. If we have a special needs daughter, we probably can't support her in small communities. You start checking all those things off, and there's not a ton of institutions that fit those categories, and Pacific is one of them. And so when this opportunity came open not too long ago, when Janet announced her retirement, I zoned in on it very quickly. And you start engaging with the process and you learn more about the institution. And it became very clear that this would be a really good fit. And then you get on campus and then it's a perfect fit. The one thing that I've, and President Callahan, you touched on this a little bit, there have been opportunities my way. Some were very flattering, not good fits, not really good opportunities in terms of what I am interested in. And one thing I'm interested in above all else is competing and winning and having championship programs that we've done at Dayton that do it the right way with academic integrity and in a rules-based integrity way that is done the right way. And it became very clear to me that that was possible at Pacific. And that was, you throw in the history, the beauty of the campus, the vibrancy of the community, the diversity of the community. And it was just a no-brainer for me and my family at that point.
Wonderful. And Adam, that's actually a great segue into our first question from our audience. And I'm going to try to attribute the questions to our alums and other supporters who put them in. And you're going to start to get familiar with some of these names as I have been, because these are some of the great Pacificans who have been out there supporting Tiger Athletics for many years. So the first question comes from Cindy Spira, classes of 76 and 84. And a very similar question from another one of our great supporters, Franz Villarillo. And what Cindy and Franz want to get at is what you just started touching on, which is, we're all super competitive. We want to win. What is your philosophy and strategies on how you create winning programs?
Cindy, Franz, very good question. That is one that I have given a lot of thought to. And it's something that I wore two hats at Dayton. One, the external side, generating revenue, selling tickets, corporate partnerships. The other was more big picture, executive functions, strategic planning. And our competitive success at Dayton had been a big part of that. And so you think long and hard, and President Callahan touched on this a little bit in terms of the data and analysis side of my brain. And that is, taking very seriously the idea of setting goals, not just goals, anecdotal goals, but goals that are rooted in fact, rooted in numbers, to know there's really 7 key ways of which you can fund a program. And that's through salary, that's through scholarship, that's through travel, that's through recruiting budgets, that's through guarantee budgets, that's through general operating budgets and equipment budgets. And if you break those things down, you can't just look at it singular. You have to compare it across your league, you have to compare it across peers. If you start ranking yourselves and setting goals from a revenue standpoint and see where you stack in the leagues, and beyond. And then from there, you build competitive goals. If you're a mid-range team, you should have mid-range goals. If you're a top-tier team, you should have top-range goals. And you start setting realistic goals, incremental goals that you can build upon as you grow revenue, as you grow budgets, to be able to be more competitive. And then in turn, holding those programs accountable. It's very clear through the interview process. I'm a big believer in student athlete experience. I do not believe that you can talk about student athlete experience without talking about competitive success. And if anytime I've ever had a difficult conversation with a student athlete in terms of maybe, we go through exit interviews with student athletes and we ask them, hey, did you have a good experience? And they say no. More times than not, it's rooted in the fact that they had a lack of competitive success. It's tough to lose. It's tough on me. It's tough on our fans. It's tough on adults. It's especially tough on young men and women in that 18 to 22-year-old range. It causes stress, anxiety, depression. And so we as administrators need to do our job to go out and raise the kind of funds to be able to support those programs. And then hold our staffs accountable to competing at the level with which we support them at, and to compete for championships and to compete in our leagues. You can't talk about that with funding. And I do think, and this is really important. I think I really want to key on this. If I leave you with anything, this is really what I want to leave you with. As I was doing my diligence on this project, whether this opportunity, whether this was something that me and my family would pursue, you get a lot of data, and you start going through and you start analyzing the institution, the support for athletics, the support not just from the university, but from the community. And, are the goals that I would have personally in terms of, basketball is playing in March and water polo is contending for national titles and having multiple top 25 teams across different sports, core sports in a year. Is that possible? Pacific. From an institutional support standpoint, we are very much at the median of our league. And that is important to note in terms of that's a really good sweet spot to be in terms of not too reliant on institutional dollars, but also the institution has a good solid stake of support in the programs. Since you hear sometimes, oh, we're 100% self-sufficient. Institutions should be a stakeholder in their athletic programs. They should have a vested financial interest, and our university does. Where we have lacked, especially since our return to the West Coast Conference in 2015, because we were a bit more on par in the Big West, we've fallen short of that in the West Coast Conference, is our external funding. We are very pronounced in terms of our last place standing in external funding, ticket sales, corporate partnerships, fundraising, ancillary dollars, NCAA units, apparel contracts, licensing, things like that. And, not to be braggadocious about myself, but that is a large part of my background. And that is a big focus on the first 100 days, the first year, the first 5 years of my tenure is going to be getting out there and meeting people and making asks of them that our student athletes are worth it, that they are worth your support and your your dollars in terms of producing championship programs. And also at the same time, I'm open to people giving me plenty of ideas. I've been really pleased with the number of big time ideas, new ideas, do different. That's a thing I say often, is do different. We have to think of ways to do things differently, whether it's our Summer High School Institute, our new pickleball and padel facility, which broke ground not too long ago, a few days ago, which will be a great asset for our campus and the community. I hope you all get to partake and enjoy in. Those are the kind of things that are going to differentiate us and set us apart moving forward and make more competitive programs.
Great. Thank you, Adam. The next question, and I will say this is the topic that came up most in our requests for questions, and that was about student attendance. And we heard this from Alan Hardcastle, a double Tiger, classes of 77 and 79, who is currently the president of the Pacific Alumni Association. From Carrie Fox, class of 2000, from Carol Hirota, classes of 77 and 79, all great supporters of Pacific athletics. And Carol, when you meet her, and I look forward to that, she'll tell you about the Orange Army that we used to have, and the great student support that we don't have today, right? I mean, and this is it's a struggle at a lot of different universities. But Adam, we'd love to hear your early thoughts about how we get our great students into Spanos, into the other venues to get them excited about supporting their student athlete colleagues.
Yeah, fantastic question, and it's one that's been close to my heart as being an external person and as someone who has a student athlete at Creighton. And I had a very I rarely missed a men's basketball game, a men's soccer game, a women's soccer game when I was a Blue Jay, and I know the value that a vibrant student crowd can have for the competitive success of a program, for the growth of a fan base, for the brand of the university, how it looks on TV. And so, Alan, Carol, I really appreciate that question. The one thing I will say is I'm very well traveled in our business. There's not too many athletic venues I haven't been in, especially in the basketball and football front. And I can say that I have been, and at Dayton, I've been privileged to be a part of. We're at 66, I think, men's basketball spots at Dayton, which even though we've only been in, it's been kind of underperforming for us in men's basketball the last 6 years. I think 4 NITs and an NCAA appearance, but we were the second ranked team in the country that happened that year. But underperforming, and we've been in top 35 in national attendance since 1969. So everybody's like, "Oh, Dayton's up." Well, we've done something despite a relative lack of, deep NCAA runs. We've done something at Dayton that hasn't happened in our history, and we've done it off of, and a big part of it is Orange Army referenced Red Scare is what our student group is called at Dayton. The Red Scare. I've been in a lot of venues at West Virginia, at Texas Tech, at a women's basketball game at Portland time. Portland, really good women's basketball program. Even really good regular paid attendance fans, stale environment if the student attendance isn't thriving at the same time. It's very, as far as I'm concerned, as a ticket sales guy, it's easy for me to sell a venue. But if I'm lacking that student energy, good luck getting those people to return purchase. So it is an absolutely integral component of getting those people, not just to get them in the door, but to keep them coming back. I was very privileged in my interview process to interact singularly with Maria Blandisi, our VP for Student Life, and this is kind of just a shared brain moment that we had, where there are examples of schools that are being a little bit more new age and not so siloed in the way that they view student attendance at athletic events, whereas athletics kind of hoard, like, no, this is ours. If we were going to, no, we're collaborative with student life. They engage with students across all manner of different events and happenings on campus around the arts, around Greek life, around community service. They are experts in engaging with students. Let's partner with them. And so we actually referenced in conversation the same ACC school that we both were familiar with that had this kind of shared relationship. And we're like, oh, we're speaking the same language here. Like we know exactly what we're talking about. So we've already kind of set a unofficial path, so to speak, of trying to figure out ways to partner with campus and you see it a lot on campuses that are really siloed with their athletics. They will try to shoehorn their schedules and their events across very crowded academic and very crowded student life calendar. And that needs to be done in cohesion, that needs to be done together to really make, because it's tough sometimes, student life, not just a student athlete, your average student life is very full. And they have to pick and choose of like, am I going to this concert? Because maybe it's not even a concert they would rather go to the concert. But what if they're in a class that's giving extra credit for attending that arts event? Or maybe they're in a sorority or a fraternity, which is a growing aspect of our campus. And they want to engage with their brothers and sisters in their fraternity or sorority. Like, we shouldn't be putting them in a position to pick and choose. And there's always going to be overlap, but I do think that there is a way for us to, like we've done at Dayton, to really partner with them and get ability and a venue and a vehicle for them to be able to engage with us that makes sense for them.
Thank you, Adam. And I'll tell our audience my brilliance in all of this which is taking two of the most creative, high energy people I know, Adam Tschuor and Maria Blandisi, putting them in a room and getting out of the way. And I think you're going to be delighted with the outcomes. Adam, let's stay on attendance for a while, and let's move to off campus, the community, the Stockton community, the entire Central Valley. Talk a little bit, if you could, about how you engage the greater Dayton community, and so everybody knows when Adam has led these efforts, 48 sellouts in a row for men's basketball at the UD Arena. That arena holds more than 13,000 people. So of course, this is actually going to be no challenge at all to fill up that. Only 6,000 seats. It will be a great challenge. But Adam, can you talk a little bit about the community side of bringing the community into our venues?
Absolutely. And tying that into what I referenced earlier about, some of the things that attracted me to Pacific. And, I looked at the mission and the values of the university, and the two of the things that stood out most, the student-centric approach to the university and its value in community, as a huge part of the University of Dayton, and has been a very valuable part of my career. I worked at a university that had poor community relations, and I swore to myself I would never work at a place that shirked that value. And to go to a place that takes it as seriously as Dayton does was an absolute selling point. And so you have to be able to appeal to your community and the broader San Joaquin, Central Valley, Stockton. It's a very broad and diverse region with a lot of areas to pull from, a lot of competition, a lot of people to pull from. But at the same time, I feel like areas that I've had success in, which is primarily around fan experience. If you have a chance to, and I welcome you to, one of the most rewarding experiences I ever had a chance to go through was our renovation of historic UD. If you go to transformudarena.com, it's still up, even though the project ended 4 years ago. It was a $78 million 5-year project that was completely redid our arena, which is built in 1969. It's hosted more NCAA tournament games than any other venue in the country. It's a sport facility. We took very much to heart. And the 3 years was construction, 2 years was planning. And 18 months of that planning was forward facing in public, to where we engage with our fans and our constituents in a very deep, methodical way. Surveys, direct feedback, focus groups. And we ask them very specifically, what do you want? Tell us what you want in a venue and an entertainment experience. And there are very few things, especially if you go to the website and you look at the phases, very few things that we did not deliver. People wanted more wine, beer, liquor selections. We provided them 37 different beers on tap. We had 2 premium spaces that catered to a private and more of a public space. They wanted more. We moved it up to 5 premium spaces that catered to vastly different groups and offerings at the same time. We tremendously upgraded our premium seating offerings, our Wi-Fi connectivity, parking accommodations, ease of access, points of entry, terminals per patron, went from 350 patrons per terminal from a concession standpoint to 75. We brought in more local vendors. We have great local food. Let's bring in more local things. We delivered what they wanted. We gave them an experience that, in their mind, the value proposition that we put forth, no matter how the team was doing on the court, who we were playing, they knew that they were going to come to UD Arena and have a good time and engage in fellowship with their fellow Daytonians. Whether they're an alumni or not, 47% of our fans at Dayton are not alumni. With 13,407 seats and almost every single one sold as a season ticket, that's a lot of Daytonians that don't have ties to the university. Opportunity for us as a campus to engage with them in a deep way. Their kids might come there. They might choose a chapel for their next wedding. All kinds of possibilities abound, engaging in a deep level with our fans. So that's absolutely something I plan on doing. I know there are some pain points already. I've had some outreach from fans, concessions, and some stuff that doing with our facility, some easy stuff, some harder stuff. We have some priorities athletically that we need to take care of first before we get into some of that stuff. But Very possible because the Spano Center is a very good facility. It's got good bones to it. It is a mendable facility in terms of making it new age.
Yeah. Terrific. Thanks, Adam. And Adam, let's stay on construction and renovation projects and the like. And the next question comes from another great Pacifican, Jim Degoni, class of 1986, who you will meet early because he comes to all of our athletic events. Great supporter. So Jim wants to know a little bit more about how you see the Student Athlete Center. For those of you who don't know, we just announced this on Monday, a major new facility adjacent to Alex G. Spanos. That is a student health and athletic training facility, state of the art for our student athletes, as well as our athletic training master students who are learning how to be athletic trainers. Talk a little bit about that, if you could, why that's important and where that fits into the overall constellation of Pacific Tiger athletic venues.
Absolutely. And that's a great, and Jim and I have had a chance to interact a little bit on social media. Yeah, he's pretty active there too. And so if you folks are on Twitter, I'm pretty active there. If you'd like to get to know me and my family a little better, feel free to find me on Twitter. But I appreciate the question, Jim. And it's absolutely an integral component. Every university, 360 Division I institution. I don't care if we're talking, UC Santa Barbara or Stanford, like one end of the spectrum to the other. Every university has pain points in terms of facilities. They have that one place that when a coach is giving a recruiting visit, they say to themselves, you know what, we're just going to steer you. What's the point? For us, it was our indoor turf facility. Like for years, that was like, nope, we're not going into Collins Gym here at the University of Dayton. We just redid it, so it's no longer a pain point. But for us, not so much a facility, but certain aspects of an existing facility, the Spanos Center, that was, around our athletic training table space, around our locker rooms, team meeting space, offices, were lacking. And for us, those are areas when you bring student athletes to campus. One of the first things a young men or women who's coming here to play volleyball, men's and women's basketball, they want to see their locker room. And you can't have it be a space that they're like, the coaches are like, let's save that to last. No, it's got to be one of the first things you got to see. You talk to parents, they want to know where their kids are going, their kids are going to be taken care of. So they want to see the academic side. They want to see the training tables. They want to see that if my child has an injury, that they're going to be taken care of. They already know from doing their diligence coming here that we have a high quality athletic training and PT academic program. And it's something that is a big game changer as far as I'm concerned. Athletic training has become a very difficult area of our business right now. It's especially post-pandemic, because it's a hard job, and there are other avenues, whether it's high school or private practice, where athletic trainers can have a good work-life balance elsewhere. And so hiring has become very difficult. Not an issue of Pacific, because we have this amazing program that is supporting not just their academic success and beyond, but also our student athletes. And so giving them a facility that will help us on that recruiting front, give them a facility that we can walk recruits through and say, now look at what we have here, in addition to our practice courts and our strength and conditioning facilities and our playing facilities. We have one of the best athletic footprints I have seen in our business. Disjointed athletic footprints are unattractive to recruits. And so when I got on campus and I see, like, we're all just right here in this cozy, beautiful setting, it is a game changer. Hard part for coaches is getting recruits to come to campus. That's the hard part. And when you get them to campus, that's where we'll win. And this piece is an absolutely integral part. We got to get that done soon.
Thank you, Adam. And the good news about that is that's our first meeting as soon as you're here on Monday.
Yes.
And we'll be working together on that, along with Mary Elizabeth Eberhardt, who, of course, is our new chair of the Board of Regents, who's taking this as her priority project for the year. Before we lose the Student Athlete Center, I just wanted to say, and Adam talked about this very important athletic training program that we have. I don't think it gets enough credit. It's a master's program. It's the only accredited program in Northern California. We have fantastic faculty at the School of Health Sciences that are driving it. And the key partner The key partner is our friend and colleague, CP Pond, who was really made this happen. It is, as Adam says, it's a differentiator. We're looking to differentiate ourselves to compete at better and higher levels. So thank you for that, Adam. Next question comes from Brooks Esser, class of 1980, on that tiny little topic of conference realignment, which has been just a tad in the news recently. So, and of course, Adam, we could talk for the next 3 hours on conference realignment. We would just like to hear sort of your overall thoughts on it and the potential impact on the WCC.
And it's a great question. I really appreciate that question, Brooks, because it has been the headline grabber of our business for the last couple of years, not just the last couple of months. Again, I don't want to touch much on it because it's something that is a real rabbit hole, and you can talk for hours on it, and it just goes nowhere because it's just rooted in things that are outside your control. But I think it is important to note that from Pacific seat, from the West Coast Conference's seat, this is something that has been front of mind, that has been discussed, that has been vetted pretty deeply. Because even before the Pac-12 dissolution that we're currently see ourselves in, we were touched by realignment with Brigham Young leaving the league. So the idea of going back from 9 to 10, and or maybe even 11, like the Big East, to get to maybe a true round robin. Because the most impactful thing that we need to keep in mind with conference realignment is that as these bigger conferences get bigger, non-conference scheduling becomes harder for schools like us. There's less opportunities for us to be able to punch up to Power 5 schools to have good quality at-large burst schedules, where we're not just reliant on winning championships to make postseason. So there are good opportunities out there. I think it's at a level right now. I think the current talk right now around the Pac-12 or Pac-4, I guess, now as they are, is that there is some merger talk among the American. They've hired Oliver Luck, former commissioner of the Big 12, who's friends with Mark Oresco, commissioner of the American. That maybe some partnership or some merger there. I don't, it'll be very interesting because the two core groups remaining in the Pac-12, very different. Cal and Stanford are very different from Washington State and Oregon State. I would be very shocked if those two, the latter two I just mentioned, are not in the Mountain West. Stanford and Cal, they could go independent in football and maybe look for a league like the West Coast Conference and something else. But again, those schools are monoliths. And football is driving the discussion. And as a non-football school, it's just something that we're just not partaking in at a huge level. But again, it's something we're always going to be mindful of. We're always going to be having discussions on, and we're always going to have our thumb on the pulse.
Thank you, Adam. And all of our fans out there should know that you may not be hearing us talk about it because a lot of this is confidential. But we are integral to those conversations within the WCC. I had a long conversation just a few days ago with Commissioner Jackson. Stu actually came out to campus for a 4-hour visit, and he's relatively new, so we had the opportunity to show him what Pacific Tiger Athletics is all about. So again, you're not going to hear Adam and I talking a lot about these conversations, but please know we are right in the middle of them, and they are important. And the one thing we know about them is that they'll be constantly changing. So stay tuned. Thanks. Thank you, Adam. The next question, and similar questions from my friend Barry Harper, class of 1966, and David Shaw, class of 1974. And that is about another small topic, NIL, name, image, and likeness. So, it's in flux. We would just love, Adam, your analysis of where you think it might be headed, and importantly, how it impacts WCC and Pacific, and how should we be thinking about NIL?
Sure, and it's something that obviously is the new thing. I'm very sure that there are people on this call that maybe aren't aware of what name, image, likeness is as it relates to our business. So what most of you should understand about collectives and name, image, likeness and these kind of organizations that are cropping up from student athletes' ability to personally profit off of their own name, image, likeness, um, and is that collectives by and large are just ad agencies. They're ad agencies of record that hire student athletes to be their employees. They then have clients, which are people like you, businesses like businesses that we partner with, local businesses that then give money for those student athletes to either promote their business or promote a charity to do something, a quid pro quo. And, for us, and I want to be very effusive about this because I want everybody to understand. I know there are people that probably philosophically disagree with the concept of name, image, likeness out there, and I totally understand why you might feel that way. There are people that are probably very supportive of this. I am someone who is supportive of name, image, likeness. I feel it does more good than bad in terms of the number of student athletes in primarily revenue generating sports that come from underprivileged backgrounds that have the ability in a short time of their life to be able to put themselves and their families in a better situation. That's a good thing to me. Now, it gets into a lot of ugly things. I have personally seen Power Five schools that have reached out to student athletes of ours in my time at Dayton and offered them substantial six figures against rules, against any kind of ethical common sense. That happens, and it is happening. It is ugly. That kind of tampering is an ugly side of our business. President Baker, the new president of the NCAA, I'm very confident that he's going to roll out some rules and some pretty punitive damages towards coaches and programs that are found to be in violation of this. I believe that will happen. We are one of there are 4 institutions in the West Coast Conference that have collectives. It's Gonzaga, San Francisco, Santa Clara, and Loyola Marymount. The fact that we do not have one puts us at a competitive disadvantage. Not so much that even what it generates, the idea that it doesn't even exist. It's just it becomes a very muted topic when you're talking to recruitment and you say you don't have one. So figuring out an entity in that space will be integral. If you have interest in that, please reach out to me. Please reach out to our staff. We would love to have a conversation with you about it. As an institution, we're supposed to be pretty arm's length, though. I am not supposed to advocate for programs. I can educate, and that's about it. There are some universities that have been a little more aggressive in that space. We're not going to go there. We're going to follow the guidelines that the NCAA provided to the letter, and we're going to honor those. But we've done some pretty creative stuff at Dayton too that are within the guidelines that I think some of our fans and in our personal conversations, I think y'all would be interested to learn more and find a way to put us in a more competitive recruiting space and a place of support for our student athletes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Adam. The next question comes from Kendall Parsons, class of 1963, and this is one close to my heart. As the news media has been highly disrupted over the last few decades, what you don't see anymore in a lot of communities, including ours, is good, strong, comprehensive coverage of Pacific athletics. Stockton Record is very corporate owned. There's quite frankly not much left of it. They don't have the resources to send out reporters. So how do you tell our story without those traditional outlets, the news outlets that you can partner with?
Yeah, and that's one. Yeah, and then that's one thing that's you hit the nail on the head there. There has been a substantial monetary and staff size crunch on media, not all of media, not just sports media, and so with that, and it was an interesting conversation I had when I was doing my interview with Stockton Record, where they, even a smaller regional paper such as the Record, where they had multiple writers that had singular beats, were now forced to cover almost a dozen different sports. At the same time, not having an editor anymore. They were a sports department of one, and that becomes very difficult. When I started at Dayton, we had a singular Dayton beat writer. There was a singular Ohio State beat writer for football. There was a singular one for Ohio State basketball, for regional universities, for high school, for the Bengals, for the Reds. There are 2 now at the Dayton Daily News, and no sports ed. So the ability for these traditional networks to cover sports globally has become very difficult, and it's forced athletic departments to think differently about how they promote themselves and to take ownership of their own storytelling. So one of the first things I did, again, my first day is not till Monday, our associate for strategic communication position, so, or has been, and so that process was going on. It actually had moved ahead of me a little bit, and had gotten apart some good candidates. A little differentiation between, you know, uh, what I would envision with how this department should run. And, being a bit of a change agent, which I believe President Callahan was looking for in me, said, hey, let's stop, let's pause. I know August is fast upon us, but let's rethink how we're looking at this. We need storytellers. We need people that are well versed in digital media and in video, in social media, in long form human interest story writing, that have bona fides and accolades to them, and have Andy Katz and Jeff Goodman and John Rothstein on their speed dial, and have connections and clout, especially in the basketball. You're going to hear me talk about basketball, and that is by design. I'm going to read you something real quick, and I know we're running short on time, but I think this is important because some people have said, like, hey, do you care? I care about all of our sports. I want all of our sports to win championships. I was a non-revenue student athlete myself. I know the value of winning championships. But in the West Coast Conference, this is from the vision statement from the West Coast Conference strategic plan. West Coast Conference competes for national titles across sports, strengthens all sports through success in men's basketball, and is nationally recognized for holistically developing student athletes. It is by design that we will focus on basketball, because playing in March is one of the best things that we can do for this institution and all of our athletic programs. And by putting compelling stories together, like our programs playing in March and playing and advancing and winning championships, and also telling you about who our coaches are, who our student athletes are, what matters to them and their families, and what their stories are, that will continue to draw people in as much, maybe even more, than winning those championships. And so that's what we're going to do here. We're going to have a very aggressive, very eye-catching approach to telling our story, and not rely on others to tell it for us.
Well said. Well said. Thank you. We're getting tight on time, but I'm going to try to squeeze in a few more short questions. And most importantly, the Tschuor clan works and plays together. We're going to see a lot of them. Tell us about Sarah and the kids.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. So I will be there on Monday. My family will not be with me, which is, as we've approached that, I'm as excited as I am of the new little set, because I'll be parting with them for a few months. But they will be wrapping some stuff up here. We're being pretty hyper focused on the right part of the community for our children. So Sarah, my wife of 11 years, she's a true gem. You'll really enjoy getting to know her. She's a golf merchandiser by trade. She keeps me well dressed, and our kids as well. Our children, though, are the light of our lives. We have 4 beautiful children. Their ages 8, 6, 5, and 1. Grayson, he's our oldest, the 8-year-old. He's the precocious one. He loves to draw, and he loves golf, which speaks to my heart. So, we'll look to continue his junior golf lessons with him in California, and get some year-round play. Our Hadley, I mentioned her earlier. Hadley is really the true light of our life. She is 6 years old. Hadley has Down syndrome, but she is doing great. She's very healthy. She's doing really well with her education and progression with some of her special needs. And we're very lucky to be moving to a community that has wonderful support in those areas. Harper, our 5-year-old, she's our firecracker. She'll tell you exactly what she's thinking until she meets someone new. Then she clams up and is the most nervous, shy person. She loves to dance. She loves to bling. And then our little one, Caden, who will be 1 here in 15 days. He always has a smile on his face, and will be decked out in orange very often. It's just a weird thing. He happens to just have a lot of orange in his wardrobe right now. So he will fit right in at Pacific.
Wonderful. Adam, we can't wait to welcome the entire family here, which will hopefully be in a couple of months as Sarah does all the work. to get everybody out here. In the meantime, Adam's going to be living really far away, so he's going to have a tough commute. Adam, where are you going to be living for the next few months?
I'm going to be living in the Chan Family Housing Complex over by the pharmacy school, which I use this phrase a lot, being a known commodity on campus. I will be a known commodity. You'll see me around a lot.
A brave man living in the student apartments. It'll be great, and it'll be a great experience for our students as well as you, I hope. Two one sentence answers to the following questions. And this one comes from one of our great student athletes, Rosie Schweitzer, who's a power forward and center on our great women's basketball team, a fantastic student. And Rosie asks simply, what are you most looking forward to as you take up this new post? What is the single thing?
Homecoming.
Homecoming. Excellent.
I've heard such amazing things about homecoming. I'm just like, I have it circled on my calendar, and I'm just like, okay, I'm going to see what this homecoming is about.
It is spectacular. And in conclusion, what would you say to the Pacific Tiger family who joined us this evening? What is your one request or your one words of wisdom?
I challenged our staff with this, and I would challenge you guys too. It's a word I don't use often, but I think it's a great word. Ruminate. I really want to challenge our fans and our supporters to come at me with big ideas and to let me know what it is that you guys are wanting to see. I've gotten such tremendous feedback from the university side and from our coaches and internally. I need that third component. I need that third wheel of what our fans are wanting. What are their big ideas? What are their wants and needs? Give me that, and let's make it happen.
Wonderful. A couple of reminders for everybody before we sign off. Thursday is our home opener for all of Pacific Athletics. Our exciting women's soccer team on Knowles Field playing UC San Diego. Importantly, just this morning, the WCC Commissioner Jackson announced a new deal with ESPN that well, I'll just say it, that awful WCC network that you had to have that huge URL and try to dial into, that is a thing of the past. All of our games now will be on ESPN Plus, which is, many of you have that already. I think it's about $9 a month. It's going to be a huge upgrade, get a lot more eyeballs on our Tigers when they're on the road. I will remind everybody, and I hope everybody will come out for our games when we're home. When we're on the road, all of the games will be shown in the Lair on new TV screens. The Lair is our pub on the second floor of the Don and Karen DeRosa University Center, right here on campus. Everybody is invited. And then just as a reminder, home opener for volleyball is against UC Davis is the 29th. Home opener for men's soccer versus UC Riverside on the 31st. And Adam mentioned homecoming. We have 5 games for homecoming plus the big event. So homecoming, October 13th to 15th. Friday night is the keynote of everything, which is the orange and black ball. We hope to see you all there. And then Saturday, we have volleyball versus Gonzaga, women's soccer versus Santa Clara, our Final Four men's water polo team versus Cal Baptist, and men's soccer versus Cal, all Saturday. And you'll be able to watch actually all those games during the day because they're nicely spread out. And then Sunday at noon, water polo versus UC Santa Barbara. So to Adam's point, homecoming is going to be spectacular this year. We look forward to seeing everybody. We're so thrilled that you were able to join us tonight. And let me just say how excited I am for the future of Pacific Athletics with Adam Tschuor at the helm. So Adam, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you in a few short days. Travel safely.
Yeah, thank you. It'll be a big drive. I'm excited to see a lot of the country, and I will be there ready to go Monday morning.
Wonderful. Thank you all for joining us. Be well,
everybody.